Alright guys, Greenpeace managed to get an Exxon Mobil lobbyist to say some incredible shit on camera thinking he was being interviewed for a job or something. And old mate Keith McCoy really spilled the beans, but he doesn't really say anything we don't already know. But I still think it's very important we hear what he said, so I managed to source as much of it as I can, as many of the important bits, and if you're subscribed to this channel, you probably already know what I'd say. So to keep this video short, I'll save my commentary and let's get started.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. Did we hide our science? Absolutely not. Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early efforts? Yes, that's true. But there's nothing illegal about that. We were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for our shareholders. And you're not going to be able to just switch to battery-operated vehicles or wind for your electricity. And just having that conversation around why that's not possible in the next 10 years is critically important to the work that we do. So, and that's at every phase. That's in the Senate, that's in the House, that's with the administration. On something like climate change, there's some forest fires, there's an increase of, 0.001, Celsius. That doesn't affect people's everyday lives.
That was only 1 minute in, and there's a lot more to go. And to make it a bit easier to follow, I made little title screens for each different topic.
We're playing defense because President Biden's talking about this big infrastructure package, and he's going to pay for it by increasing corporate taxes. You stick to highways and bridges, then a lot of the negative stuff starts to come out because
for you guys,
because there's a germaneness, right? That doesn't make any sense for a highway bill. Why would you put in a something on emissions reductions on climate change to oil refineries in a highway bill? Nobody is going to propose a tax on all Americans. And the cynical side of me says, yeah, we kind of know that. But it gives us a talking point that we can say, well, what is ExxonMobil for? Well, we're for a carbon tax.
What you said was just really interesting. So it's basically never going to happen, right? Is the calculation?
Yeah. No, it's not going to. Carbon tax isn't going to happen.
So this helps me understand a little bit why suddenly a lot of US oil majors are talking about a carbon tax, because it sounds pretty.
Well, the cynical side of me, they've got nothing else. So it's an easy talking point to say, look, I'm for a carbon tax. So that's the talking point. That is in my mind, an effective advocacy tool.
Your position would be to show that you're doing enough on recycling to make these products, but to oppose banning plastics of plastic straws or bags or whatever they try and ban, because you're saying that when it becomes a government issue, it's out of your control. Is that right?
Right. You want to get smart on it, right? Because it's coming. But so it's just like on climate change, right? So when climate change came, it's here. When it started, you start to have conversations to say, well, you can't completely change the electric grid from coal and gas into wind, and here's why. It's the same conversation. You can't ban plastics because here's why, or you can't recycle, legislate 100% recycling because here's why. It's just not technologically feasible. So we're doing the research. We're looking at our markets. We're looking at the chemistry, and we're hoping to be able to come up with if not solutions, at least some reasons and some talking points to have with members of Congress. We manufacture PFAS, the chemical. We use it in our firefighting equipment. So we have pushed our associations to be out front on that, to say some things about that, whether it's API. We belong to the American Chemistry Council. The American Chemistry Council, to say some things about PFAS that we definitely don't want to be out front talking about. We think if word got out that ExxonMobil manufactured those chemicals, that ExxonMobil uses those chemicals, it's a talking point. You know, it becomes the ExxonMobil chemical, and that is just going to hurt the effort. You know, they start talking about how this is an ExxonMobil chemical and ExxonMobil is poisoning our waterways. The debate's pretty much over.
I see.
Unfortunately, you start to have this legislation. We see this legislation. We're like, holy crap! This is legislation. This is a chemical that we manufacture. This is a chemical that we use. The debate right now is it's a forever chemical. So once it's in the waterway, you know, there's no cleaning it up. So I mean, there has to be that component as well. Is how can you get it out of the waterways?
Yeah. And so that's the strategy for keeping Exxon's name away. Do people know that Exxon makes that chemical at all? No one knows.
No.
So
Nobody.
You've managed to lobby successfully on that while keeping it completely.
Yeah, I mean, it's the good thing is that the debate isn't who makes it. I think the debate is it's here. It's an effective chemical. We need this chemical. We have needed this chemical. Yeah. How can we either safely use it or eliminate it? There isn't the debate right now about who manufactures it. Thankfully.
How much money do you guys make from this chemical? Is it lucrative?
I mean, it's not a big business. Yeah. It's, you know, for a company ExxonMobil size, it's probably a few $100 million, which isn't big. But it's enough that it gets our attention.
Right. Yeah.
So that's part of everything that's happening with individual companies, with our trade association, American Chemistry Council. American Chemistry Council is at the state level. They're at the federal level. They are international. So they have a really good viewpoint of the chemical landscape. And we're a part of all of those conversations there, because we would prefer model legislation that the American Chemistry Council would put forth, as opposed to, say, a super progressive member of Congress that puts forth a comprehensive piece of plastics legislation. We prefer it come from us rather from them. When you have an opportunity to talk to a member of Congress, you know, I liken it to fishing, right? You know, you have bait, you throw that bait out, you know, it's all these opportunities that you use, and to use the fishing analogy again, just to kind of reel them in, because they're a captive audience. They know they need you and I need them. So API goes up to the Hill as API with coalitions. They get partners. They try to bring in some other partners, such as the National Association of Manufacturers, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, American Fuels and Petrochemical Associations, AFPM, which is a natural partner on this, because that's the Association for Refineries. So you bring in AFPM and you build this coalition of just associations. So now you can start having letters and conversations. It's just associations, no companies. So you start to build out a coalition of associations. Now companies feed into that privately when we have meetings, but the public face of it are the associations. They go to the Hill, they have these conversations. They talk about the use of these chemicals. They talk about the manufacturing of these chemicals. They talk about the alternatives for these chemicals. And that tamps down the rhetoric. It tamps down the excitement. Go to the chief and say, look, we've got this issue. We need Congressman so-and-so to be able to either introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. Yeah. You name it. We've asked for everything.
Crucial guys for you.
Well, Senator Capito, who is who chairs the Senate, who's the ranking member on Environment and Public Works. Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is the kingmaker on this because he's a Democrat from West Virginia, which is a very conservative state. So he is, and he's not shy about sort of staking his claim early and completely changing the debate. So on the Democrat side, we look for the moderates on these issues. So it's the Manchins, it's the Cinemas, it's the Testers. Other ones that aren't talked about is Senator Coons, who's from Delaware, who has a very close relationship with Senator Biden. So we've been working with his office. Matter of fact, our CEO is talking to him next Tuesday.
The final thing I want to say about all this is they couldn't have gotten this far without political corruption. It would have been a lot harder for ExxonMobil to control laws around plastics and poison waterways with forever chemicals and just completely derail any climate action done by America for decades. Couldn't have done all that without fucking politicians. Thanks for watching.
Amen, brother. The bottom line is it's going to take political courage, political will in order to get something done. And that doesn't exist in politics. It just doesn't.